Andrew Bone is with us from BamaInsider.com, part of the Rivals.com network for our Bama Football Recruiting Report. National Signing Day is only 2 weeks away, Bone, so I know everything is really amping up. And for Alabama, there's a lot of storylines that you're touching on in your Alabama Crimson Tide recruiting nuggets that you put out here just a couple of hours ago at BamaInsider.com. You touched on a few of them last week. Let's start with Javion Cohen, the offensive lineman from Central Phoenix City who's committed to Auburn, but you've put him on flip watch. What's the latest there?
Well, Javion Cohen, the four-star lineman from Central Phoenix City, actually playing in the Class 7A state championship this evening against Thompson. He had an in-home visit on Monday with Nick Saban, and actually it wasn't an in-home visit. Coach Saban came to the school, visited with him. Coach Kyle Flood came by. Coach Charles Kelly came by as well. So 3 Alabama coaches met with Javion Cohen and his family. Great visit, good sit down. Cohen described it as the best visit he's ever had with a college coach. So I thought that spoke volumes. Both of his parents are actually Alabama fans. He grew up in an Alabama household and committed to Auburn. Right before the summer started. I think Alabama's got a great chance to flip him. He's going to visit Tuscaloosa this weekend for an official visit. He's actually already visited Auburn, taking his official visit to Auburn. Now, he can sneak over there whenever he wants to. Phoenix City, being right there next to Auburn, he can go over there any day he wants. But the fact that he's not going to take an official visit to Auburn next weekend, I think that helps Alabama out a lot. But as of right now, I'm still predicting him to flip to Alabama. We'll see how this weekend goes. Maybe he does it this weekend. Maybe he waits all the way up until signing day here in a couple of weeks. But I do feel really good about Alabama's chances in getting Cohen on board.
Good deal. I know that he's a really good-looking football player. You're trying to flip players. These schools are. You're also trying to hold on to your commitments, and a lot of focus still on Timothy Smith, the outstanding defensive tackle from Sebastian River, Florida. Florida has made him a priority. They have continued to recruit him with a lot of fervor. Is Alabama going to be able to hang on to him?
Well, they're doing their best job. I mean, it certainly has become a pretty tight. I think Alabama will hold on to him, but it's I think it definitely has Alabama a little nervous because he has visited Florida several times this season, and he is going to Gainesville on December the 13th, the final weekend before signing day, for his official visit. So that you just never know what can happen, especially being a little bit closer to home. Having the relationship with coaches, being down there as much as he has this season, I think there is, a little cause for concern. But if I had to pick today, I still think that he sticks with Alabama. Southland Series did a tremendous job recruiting him. He's the lead recruiter for Timothy Smith. Smith is going to make it back to Tuscaloosa this weekend for an official visit. I am sure Alabama is going to try to do whatever they can to seal the deal this weekend, and hope that after this weekend, Smith will, come out and say that he's not taking any more visits. But as of right now, that's not the case. As of right now, he's still going to take that visit over to Florida next weekend, and then have to see what happens, the next couple of days, leading up to National Signing Day. But as of right now, still predicting Alabama, but it's pretty close.
A tight one. Bone, one of the most coveted, uncommitted prospects in the country, continues to be 5-star tight end Darnell Washington from Las Vegas. He is a guy that, Georgia certainly has been involved with for a long time. Now Tennessee seems to be cranking up its recruitment, and he's showing interest in them. Miami's involved. And, of course, Alabama has been involved for a long time, particularly once Eric Gilbert committed to LSU. This, to me, looks like one of these guys that's just a little bit unpredictable in regards to where he's going to wind up. What are you hearing on him?
Well, probably since midsummer, I've been saying, no chance. He's going to Georgia. I mean, Georgia has been the heavy favorite for him, and Darnell came into Tuscaloosa for an official visit for the LSU game, and then Nick Saban and Coach Stark and Jeff Banks, the tight ends coach, had an in-home visit with Darnell Washington yesterday, and I think it went great. I mean, I've talked to probably 3 or 4 different sources, whether that was people who were there or people who have just heard through the grapevine, regarding the visit yesterday. And from what I've been told, it could not have been any better. Alabama has a very pressing need at tight end. They missed out on Eric Gilbert a month or so ago, and that was a big loss. And they were behind. They were behind for Darnell Washington, and I think after his visit to Tuscaloosa, after meeting with Nick Saban, I would say that Alabama is now squarely in the mix for him. I think that they have really done a great job over the course of the last few weeks with him, and laid out their plan for him, and how they see him fitting in the offense, and everything from top to bottom, what all the school can do for you. I think Alabama is a major threat to Georgia. I'm not ready to make a prediction on him just yet. I probably have cooled a little bit more on saying he's a lock to Georgia.
Right.
But I do think Alabama is. I think they're very much involved and very heavily being considered right now by him after yesterday.
Alabama wants a tight end, another tight end in this class, and obviously, he appears to be the top one available. But Peggys out of Oxford, Mississippi, continues to be recruited by the Crimson Tide. Now, I was told by someone over there in Mississippi that he's up to about 300 pounds. You got to watch his weight, I guess, and might even eventually, if it didn't work out at tight end, could play defensive line for you. But what's the latest with him?
Well, Coach Saban had an in-home visit on Monday with him. Once again, went to the high school rather than going and sitting in his house, but took that visit with him on Monday, spent some time with him, and I think Alabama could get him on board, but at the same time, there's probably just one tight end spot available, and Alabama is heavily recruiting Darnell Washington, as we just talked about, and we'll likely wait to see what happens with him. I don't know if they will decide, all right, there's enough space for both of these guys. They might decide that later on, but I don't think that's been decided just yet. But I think if Darnell Washington ends up elsewhere, I could see Alabama, potentially getting Peggys on board. I think they really like him a good deal, and we'll just have to kind of wait and see how it all plays out. But I think that they've done a good job recruiting him and kind of telling him exactly what their situation is, and they're just kind of waiting to see what happens with Washington.
How much of a concern is there with Jeremiah Peggys in his weight? He seems to have a propensity to put it in. I think he's still listed most places at like 260, but as I said, I talked to somebody over there in Mississippi that said he's pushing 300, Bone.
Yeah, I haven't really heard in terms of his overall weight or how much of a concern it is for Alabama. It doesn't seem like it's much of a concern right now. I think they feel like they can get it down. And he's a bigger kid, so he does have the ability to play, probably on either side of the ball. So, let's say Alabama doesn't get another defensive line commitment in this class, possibly move him over, to the defensive side of the ball. So I think that, that's possibly a, something that they're considering. But in terms of, being worried about his weight, I haven't heard that, from Alabama's perspective yet.
Moines Kennedy gets that fifth star, and gosh, man, if you watch this kid play, he deserves it. Longtime Alabama commitment out of Theodore High School, but raised a few eyebrows when he visited LSU. Any concerns in regards to Moines Kennedy sticking with the Tide?
I posted this on BamaInsider yesterday. I said, every year, around this time of the year, there's an Alabama commitment who's been solid throughout the entire process, who gets attention from somebody and decides to visit that school, whether it's Auburn or Florida or Georgia or Tennessee or LSU, it seems to happen every single year. And this year it's Des Moines Kennedy that's all of a sudden has taken this trip to LSU, and now the Tigers seem like they're a threat to steal him away from Alabama. I would be shocked if he ends up flipping. Do I think LSU's in it? I do. I think he had a great visit over to Baton Rouge this past weekend, and they're certainly putting the full court press on him, trying to flip him. And what people may not remember is, Des Moines Kennedy was originally an Auburn commitment.
Right.
He backs off his commitment to Auburn and went down to LSU for their camp. Well, when he went down to LSU for their camp, he was a heavy lean towards LSU. Everybody kind of expected him to commit to LSU, and he all of a sudden decided, all right, well, I'm going to go up to Alabama, before I make my decision. Went to Alabama, and that's when Alabama, decided they messed up and didn't start recruiting him earlier. He was just such a good football player at camp that they were like, he's at the top of our list. We've got to get him on board. So he committed to Alabama a couple weeks later, and now LSU coming back into the mix. Now, like I said, I think he sticks with Alabama. In-state kid. You tend not to see those kids that are in-state who are committed to an in-state program flip to an out-of-state program at the last minute. And I think they've done a good job recruiting him. Sal Sinceri, lead recruiter there. I just can't see him flipping, but I think we're foolish to say that LSU's not in it.
Wow. Boy, LSU, what a year Ed Orgeron and company are having on the field and in recruiting. Just wow. Hopefully Alabama will hang on to Des Moines Kennedy because he is a baller, man. I want to ask you about because it looks like with Zach Evans, that chicken's falling the coop where Alabama's concerned. I'm not sure Alabama wants the guy, and he continues to. Well, let me go and ask you about him before I get to Jace McClellan. I mean, what is it with this kid? I mean, how many recruiting dates is he going to set to make a commitment and then not commit? What's going on with Evans?
Yeah, I don't know. It's been a roller coaster ride with him from the very beginning. From skipping out on camps, even camps that were paid for. The Rivals 5-Star Challenge, the opening. I mean, these are trips that are that he doesn't have to spend a dime to go to. That travel, everything is paid for him to go, and he just didn't show up at the airport, didn't do any of that. I mean, it's kind of weird. Hasn't shown up to games. Has had a few different announcements planned and has canceled them. I don't know what the whole situation is. I mean, I've talked to several different people, and they've said that he's a good kid at the end of the day, but just not sure why all the changes and everything throughout his recruiting process. But I do think Alabama has moved on. I don't see them continuing to recruit him. I don't know if they have been recruiting him lately. And I think they've really kind of shifted their focus over to Jace McClellan.
Well, let's get there because we're getting up against the clock bone. Yep. Yeah, the Oklahoma commitment from Texas looks like Alabama has really caught his attention here late.
Yeah, absolutely. Started to hear really strongly over the course of the last few days. Probably on Sunday was when I first heard Alabama very much in this thing for him. I think they got a good chance to flip him. I wasn't saying that a couple weeks ago. I wasn't saying that a month ago. I would have been very shocked if that happened, but as of now, would not be shocked at all. I think Alabama's in great shape. They're going to go see him play on Friday night, and we'll see what happens.
Indeed, we will. All right, in the final 30, 45 seconds, anybody on commitment watch here in the next few days?
Well, we're keeping an eye on Javion Cohen as he's coming in Tuscaloosa this weekend. I think Alabama's doing a great job, getting ahead of, some of these other schools this week in terms of getting on the road and seeing kids. Alabama has already seen Jordan Burch. You're going to see Phillip Webb today. Jason Cohen on Friday, as I mentioned, and I think Alabama fans are going to be pleasantly surprised with how this class finishes up in the next 2 weeks.
Sounds good. And Bone, you'll be tracking it all right there at BamaInsider.com, right?
Absolutely. Please be sure to follow us over on Bama Insider. Got a running thread on all the in-home visits and much more.
Thanks, Bone.
Thank you.